And to get used to the pen tool in Figma and Illustrator, they basically work the same way. The two shortcuts you want to remember for both, P is for the pen tool. So P on your keyboard, click on that, highlights, goes to the pen tool. V is for the move tool. So V on your keyboard is for the move tool. These are universal shortcuts. So in Illustrator, it's the same, using the same exact shortcut. P is for the pen, V is for the move tool. So just remember V for move, and remember V is like an upside down version of the cursor. That's the way to think about it. So it's for selecting and moving, and P is for the pen tool. So once I have the pen tool selected, I can start drawing here. And in Figma, you're just going to see a little circle, and you just click, draw a straight line. Now, if you click and drag, it's going to pull out these handles. And so when I do that, it's creating a curve. So clicking and dragging creates your curve like this. And clicking once and then clicking again is going to create a sharp corner. So when I just click, it's creating a sharp corner. And then when I click and drag, it's creating a curve. If you double click on a curve that you created in Figma, it basically ends that curve. So that curve has been created. And if you go over here, it's called vector 1. So it names that curve. It is now called vector 1. So you can name this too. You can change vector 1 and call it something else. It basically keeps track of every single thing that you draw. Single thing that you create is on that left-hand side. Now, if you go to the right-hand side, it gives you information about the curve. So the location, X and Y, the width and the height, and other details as well. Now, if you go down here where it says stroke, the stroke is the line. So stroke is another way of saying curve or another way of saying line. So if you want to change the color of the curve, you can click on the box below, change the color, so make it red. And then in Figma, if you want to change the thickness, you go next to, again. If you want to change the thickness of the curve, below where it has the color, there's a percentage. That's the opacity. And then below that are these three lines and the number 1. The number 1 is the width of that curve. So I can increase by left click and dragging. So I can increase the thickness or the stroke width by left clicking and dragging down here. So it's under, so just remember the stroke is your curve itself. It's the outline of the shape, or it's a line, that's a stroke, and the fill is the color that's inside of that line or stroke or shape. So you got fill and stroke right here. In Figma, if you don't see anything for fill, you can hit this plus sign and it creates a fill for you, and that will add a fill to something. It's a little bit different than Illustrator, whereas it's not, in Illustrator, it would actually fill this. To have the fill in Figma, it should be an enclosed shape. You can add more strokes on top of strokes, but for now, just focus on the strokes or the lines and just make sure you're just staying in black lines for now. So we're just focused on drawing with the pen tool. Now in Figma, what's nice is if I have one stroke here selected and I go back and use the pen tool and I start drawing again, it basically should let me get close enough to another line. And as I drag out, you can see, let's say I create another point here and I get close to a line. That line turns red, so it lets me know that I'm on top of a line. So you can start to create these connected type shapes. And in Figma, if you do click on a line, and if you're like adding to a pre-existing line, you're basically creating a more complex vector shape. But what I do want you to do is just explore how you can create a complex shape with the pen tool in Figma to recreate your portrait in an abstract type way. So you can explore line thickness by playing with this stroke here, so making it thicker or thinner. You can explore repetition. You can explore how you are using direction with lines, and explore a combination of linear and curved as well. By you click to create the curve, you just now if you want to change any of these lines after you use the pen tool, that's where you hit B for the move tool, and you can hover over a point and you can move and change the position of the point. If you have points in Figma that are perpendicular to other lines, then those points are going to automatically control all the lines that are connected to the point. So that's one interesting thing that's different than Figma and Illustrator is in Illustrator, if you put a point on top of another point, it won't connect the two together. It'll basically create a separate line on top. Now, what you can do is you can add additional points. So if you hit P for the pen tool and you hover over any line, it turns red and you click, you can add an additional point. And let's see this. So I just added a point there. So now when I go into the move tool, I that point out. So I can basically add additional points to lines if I want to. And if I option click and drag on a point, it's going to duplicate. So I can basically duplicate lines. And that's the pen tool in Figma. Now, when you select on a point, let's say, and you hit Command on a Mac or Control on a PC, and you drag out, and if you have a sharp corner, you can drag that out and you can turn that into a curve. If you Command and click on a curve, and you use Command left click on a Mac or Control left click on a PC, you can turn a curve into a sharp corner. So you can explore a combination of curves and sharp corners. So if you want to see this to the side here, use the pen tool. I'm going to drag a point. I'm going to drag again, not drag, actually just click. So I'm going to click once, click again, left click again, and I'm going to go into the move tool. And so now I'm in the move tool. I'm not in the pen tool anymore. So if I want to change this sharp corner to a curve, I Command click on it, drag out, and now it's a curve. If I want to change it back to a sharp corner, Command and click on it, and now it's a sharp corner. So just understand that the idea behind this curve is that there's handles here on the curve. You can almost see them. Like when I go with my move tool and hover over, I can see the handle. It's like a point that's existing off to the side. And actually, if I Command click on that, you can see them dragged out. This handle is what controls the curvature. So you have the point in the middle, that's your anchor point, and then you have these handles at the end, and these are your Bezier handles. And that's what all vectors are made up of. There's always this invisible Bezier handle that exists for every anchor point. So if you have a curve of any sort, it's the handle that controls it. And so if you don't, you're not going to see that handle, but if you click on a point and you do have a curve, then that handle will appear. So getting used to, when you want to create precise curves, it just takes time to get used to how the Bezier works, and that is basically based on how you drag as you draw. So if you create like a really small drag, the curve is going to be more subtle, and if you create a longer drag out for a greater width of that handle, it's going to create something that's more pronounced in terms of the curvature.